Welcome to Voices of Indianapolis, where we explore the narratives of innovators, collaborators, and communicators shaping our city. I'm Jeff Edge, your host on this journey. Join us as we uncover their strengths, glean insights into their views of Indianapolis, and unravel the qualities that make them exemplary role models. Through candid conversations, we aim to illuminate their impactful projects, collaborations, and communication efforts that are propelling our community forward. Together, we'll celebrate these influencers, fostering inspiration and dialogue to forge a stronger, more united Indianapolis. Okay, if you can start by just passing this microphone down and telling us who you are and what you do.
I'm Kelly Young. I'm the founder and president of Education ReImagined, a nonprofit in Washington, D.C., focused on transforming K-12 education in the United States.
I'm Johnna Noll. I'm a learner-centered leader of a school district, Norris School District in southeastern Wisconsin, and I am participating in the Ecosystem Exploration Lab. We are here to just learn all about your great experiences and opportunities to learn here within the community.
Hello, Commodore. I am Emily Bader, and I am the Chief Communications Officer at Education ReImagined. My amazing job is to tell all the stories of what schools, learning sites, educators, learners are doing all around the country to create a better education experience.
Hello, my name is Alin, Bennett. I'm Vice President of Practice and Field Advancement at Education ReImagined from Providence, Rhode Island currently. And our work right now is to catalyze what we're calling community-based ecosystems of learning. And that is essentially making sure that the entire community is the playground for learning and that learners can learn at in a way that they love and with real conditions in the community.
Hello, I'm Trace Pickering. I'm from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I've started two learner-centered programs in schools, one called Iowa Big, another one called City View Community High School. So much like Johnna, a practitioner trying to get this concept of ecosystems, create living examples that we can all look to.
How do you organize, support, and promote personalized and student-driven learning experiences?
Supporting and organized personalized learning experiences really begins with the learner. I believe it's very important to understand who that learner is and who they want to become. So who am I? Who do I want to become? And then that learning journey should really reflect that learner's needs and interests. So that is how we start, by talking and getting to know each learner and helping them connect with the resources that they need to help them pursue a living or their fulfilled future.
Much like Johnna said, learner-centered programs in schools really focus on the learner and what it is you need instead of what the school or the state wants you or thinks you need to learn. It's really more about what is it you're trying to make happen and how can we help you make that happen while you're learning the important skills and competencies and things that you need to create the kind of future you want to have.
What happens if there's a skill that someone needs but you guys don't have that just yet?
That is a wonderful question. That's why we're very interested in ecosystems and getting outside the walls of the school. I know Alin ran a beautiful school in Providence that did just that, where they didn't have all the expertise in-house, but the community does. And so it's just connecting students with the resources in the community who can teach them what they need.
Yeah, and I would just add to that on the other side of what Trace and Johnna were mentioning around curating relationships and building deep relationships. The opposite side of that is curating the opportunities. Once you know the child really well, supporting them and curating the opportunities that would have them find access to those skills and relationships and social networks.
Just to follow up with Alin was saying about creating a social network, one of the things I think is really important to do in your local communities is create an asset map of all the resources that are in your community. And you may know somebody in a community, but it's not something of interest for you, but it would be really great for one of your friends. And so just to be able to understand what all those resources are is something I think that's really vital to this work.
Can you explain of the real world project or internship that students been have been involved through your programs?
I'm holding the microphone. I will start. I would love to share with you the learning journey of a young man named Carson. And Carson was very interested in music and making beats. But he was convinced that there was no way he was doing school, particularly math. He wanted to create a recording studio in our learning environment and said to me, here, could you just buy all these soundproof pieces? So in order to do that, he ended up kind of scribbling out and figuring out the area of a room and then purchased the correct number of soundproofing tiles. He selected a microphone and did a little bit of research about what are the microphones and what is the difference between microphone A and microphone B, and made a proposal about why that cost was there. As he proceeded to build that, he then had a space where he could kind of make his beats, tell his story. He recorded something, put it on a little CD, made the cover, and then tried to market that with local DJs. So that was something that he did on his own. He pursued on his own and was convinced he wasn't learning anything along the way because it was what he wanted to do, and school doesn't let me do this kind of stuff. But I think it's a true example of a learning journey of a young man.
I can share an example that I experienced at the Met School in Providence. There's this learner, her name is Deodyssey, and she's a 10th grader. And this was a conversation I had with her back in February. And she came to this school, and part of their school is establishing internships from the get-go. And Deodyssey loved to draw. She was so into art. And during the pandemic, she learned how to use digital tools to create art. And she was a tiny ball of light, and she didn't know we were going to come visit her at her internship that day, but she was working at a local graphics company called House of Graphics. And we go into the House of Graphics and we meet her mentor, and her mentor introduces us to Deodyssey. And Deodyssey talked about, first she showed us all around the graphic studio and what all the big machines did to create the big billboards that they served, to create signs and 3D signs within restaurants and stuff like that. But then she talked about at this internship, they all have their own projects that they engage with, and their mentor at this guy, Rodney from House of Graphics, helped them do. And her project was to create signs in Providence, recognizing that the pandemic obviously really just bummed so many people out in so many ways, and people were, experiencing a lot of stresses and just discomfort throughout the pandemic. And she brought that to bear, and her goal was to just cheer people up. And so as a designer and an artist, she created these signs that she wanted to distribute all around Providence that were lawn signs with uplifting messages about what they can do to make their days better. And so Rodney helped her figure out all the skills with math and ordering supplies and how to create literally 1,000 signs to distribute around Providence, Rhode Island, to make people feel better. So that was her internship experience, and she learned so much from that.
How did you get to that position starting from high school? What was your journey from high school to there?
It was a long one because I started Education ReImagined when I was 42. So I had graduated college when I was 21. So there was a lot that happened in between. But Education ReImagined is the third organization that I've founded. So one is having that experience. And I would say that probably the most important experience that I had growing up that prepared me for that is that my mom had her own business. And so I grew up, doing the accounting, doing sales. I eventually got into the marketing. I was exposed to all the different parts of a business. And so because of that, I felt confident when I had an idea to do something to start the business. It didn't have to be my mom's business. It could have been any business, but that exposure really led me to be confident when I had an idea, okay, I can follow that and I can create an organization. Great question. Thank you.
All right. Johnna, what was your title description again?
Officially, I'm the executive director of the Norris School District.
Mm-hmm. And what was your initial thought when you heard about this school?
I was very excited to come here to this school and visit. I think our philosophies are very much aligned in terms of really letting each learner follow their own pathway and pursue it at their own rate and in their area of interest. So I was very excited to see that. I love watching the interactions with your advisors and just the agency that I think the learners have here in terms of who they are, who they want to become, what they're working on, and why, and how that's important to them. So I was very excited to see that, and my trip has been fulfilled.
So you're still liking the whole school and everything?
I do. I love your school. I heard some great reasons for being here from some of your learners and how it's really impacted them personally and helped them become a better person. So yes, love it here.
Solid. Emily, what do you do for your job again?
I am the Chief Communications Officer, so the Chief Storyteller.
So how do you exactly get that out to the people? How do you spread word?
Well, a big important part of that is to be here, right? To really understand some of the amazing stories that are happening, the journeys that Commodore Jeff and all of your advisors and the folks who've built this are creating. So why? What were the bumps along the road? What are the joys that they experience? What are their visions? Where do they want to go? So really unpacking all of those insights is the most important part and the most fun part for me, to be honest. And then just taking all those stories and pulling them together. And part of what I want to do is make sure that communities outside of the sphere of people who really, at this point, very much believe and are working hard towards creating this kind of experience, really understand the magic. So when you're talking to your mom's friend about your school, for example, or you're talking to someone who is potentially going to give you a job, why this learning experience is different and why it matters. And so my goal is through the media, through social media, through events and speaking engagements, through podcasts like this one, to help really illuminate why this is important, why it's cool, why it matters, and why it needs to be our future.
Alin? Solid.
And my title is Vice President of Practice and Field Advancement.
Ooh, what kind of section of the job is that again?
So it's working closely with folks like this, practitioners and administrators and learners, young learners, and adult learners who are really trying to advance the practices in the field of learner-centered education.
How do you usually work on reaching out to those people first? Like, how do you usually hear about them, and then how do you work towards trying to make connections and get stuff done with them?
Yeah, so very much how I supported young learners and worked as an advisor and principal myself. It really starts off with some just initial research and questions where I'm just looking out at all the cool and dope work that's happening out in the field, usually using Google and online things that you're all very much aware of. And then it really starts out with cold calling, and I would really encourage you all and the young learners in this room to get comfortable with sort of that cold calling and that cold outreach, because that's where some of your deepest, long-lasting relationships can happen, and that's how you develop your networks. And then you also lean on people you already know. Many times I've heard of a place from Johnna, from Trace, from Kelly around a new location that is doing really amazing transformational work with young people and adults. So it's a mixture of just using your resources at hand along with your social network of humans that you're close to.
He said your name's Trace?
Trace, yep.
Solid. Job description.
I'm a co-founder of a program called Iowa Big and City View, and was the former executive director of Iowa Big.
How did you get to being co-founder? Like, what led up to that?
Took more than just my brain to make it happen. Really, for many years, I was just unsatisfied with the way school was. It wasn't great for me. I could see it wasn't great for a lot of high school kids. And so I was always looking for an opportunity to open up what I considered to be, I didn't have the language of learner-centered at the time, but that's what I wanted to create. And serendipity happened. I ran into a teacher by the name of Sean Cornally, who was trying to do the same thing in a classroom. And he and I started this crazy project we called the Billy Madison Project, which probably means nothing to you, but it's an old Adam Sandler movie where you have to go back to school to prove that you knew what you were doing. But anyway, we sent 60 adults from our community back to high school as students so they could see for themselves how often boring it was and tedious and not necessarily very life-affirming. And out of that experiment came the opportunity to open up Iowa Big. And so I couldn't have done it without Sean, and he couldn't have done it without me.
Any words of advice any of you guys have to other educators that kind of want to do the same thing you guys are doing?
Don't be afraid. Just do it.
Yeah, stay in a place of possibility. You don't have to carry your past with you and our legacy system with us as we create something new and sort of just imagine newly.
For educators to open the aperture of possibility for their learners and understand that they don't need to be responsible for filling heads with knowledge. They need to be the conduits to all kinds of experience that can help kids learn and grow and see their futures.
Think big, think out of the box, and do not let the things that you know, don't revert to the things that you know, because likely you did them for efficiency and not necessarily because it's what that learner needed at that point in time.
To trust young people. There's deep wisdom and greatness inside of every child and every young person, and you can trust that.
If all of you can tell me your names and what you do.
My name is Matt Kull, and I oversee operations for the NACA-inspired schools network.
I am Robert Kuprenas. I'm the learning design architect at Norris in Wisconsin.
I'm Robert Jackson. I'm the data and program analyst at Norris.
I'm June Stowski. I'm the director of operations at Norris.
Hi, I'm Bobby MacDonald, and I am the partner for ecosystems growth and advancement at Education ReImagined.
What strategies do you use to connect students with potential internship opportunities that align with their interests?
So I used to oversee a workforce program for kids 18 to 26, and thank you for asking that question because that's a good one. A big piece is finding what young people's self-interests are, even if those aren't something that fall into my interest per se, and knowing that kids are in the best place to lead, right? Connecting them with the resources that they're looking for. And at the same time, I think we need to remember that most times when we think of mentorship, we think of younger people being mentored by older people. But in my mid-40s, I found it's really important for me to be able to learn from young people as well. So I'll take folks on who are studying social work, public health, things along those lines, trying to start with middle school age and running up through college. So it works both ways. They learn from me, and I have the opportunity to learn from y'all as well.
So Rob just referenced at our school, we're working on developing opportunities for learners to explore their curiosities. So through mini pursuits and interest-based learning, we're going to give them opportunities to try out different things, see what they might like. And from there, if it seems like they are interested in it, we can then develop that into maybe courses or eventually internships as well.
In addition to that, part of the Norris practices, we have learners engage in our orientation process about building a profile where they really take some time to learn about their own interests, their own learning preferences and styles, and kind of start developing some of the more professional skills that they'll need when working in internships, like how do you compose a professional email? How do you interact and have like a really good first impression with the people that you're meeting and trying to get internships from?
In addition to those things, we also have a community liaison who works with the communities surrounding us. She goes to the Chamber of Commerce meetings. She makes a lot of those connections with people in the community so that we can utilize them as mentors, as internships. So we have somebody that specifically does that, which helps.
From my perspective, because we work with schools and organizations all across the United States, what we really noticed was that most places are surrounded by hundreds and thousands of people who want to get connected and help kids and be connected to them and be in relationship with them. But you have to have some way of doing it, some kind of system. So sometimes it's a coordinator, sometimes it's an online platform or a human library, a way so you know what opportunities are available to you. And that's the kind of thing that we're looking at and holding up so that people can create strong systems and get folks connected.
You all have been to Purdue, the other school nearby, a lot different from this one. And my question is going to be, how would you compare the experiences at Purdue to the experiences that can happen here and that you've seen here?
I'll do a quick one. We're just there briefly, and one thing we noticed is how good and kind people were being to each other. But there's a lot of people in that building. It's a big school, and so that causes a certain kind of schedule to be followed, a certain kind of like moving people from place to place. And they're doing great work over there. I think this school right here offers a chance to do things more nimbly and to really follow the interests of kids in a way that is difficult to do in a bigger site.
I think one of the things that I've seen at both this micro school and then the Purdue main campus is the trust in the learners, and there's not your coaches aren't constantly like over your shoulder hassling, and just I've seen like just learners out on the couches just doing their own thing, but it seems like everybody's making progress. And just the amount of trust that they put in the learners. And I think, the main difference is just obviously the size and how more, I think, quicker those relationships can form between coach and learner in a much smaller setting where you're working with the same people all day. And that's been really nice to see.
I think for me, the other school's been around for a few years now, and you guys are brand new. So you have opportunities what do you want to get out of your school, right? What do you want to see? And you guys can advocate for that and speak up and say, hey, I want to be able to do these opportunities. I want this to be my level of success. And so as you guys are in the first few weeks here, think about what do you want? And that's the advantages you have over a much larger school that's been around for a while. You guys set the tone, right?
The only thing I'd add to that is you all have the opportunity to really create community in this space, and you all probably get to know one another by interacting day in, day out. But I'd also encourage you to think about the intentionality of that. There's a range in the way that you know folks here. And so taking the opportunity 3 or 4 times a week just to sit down with somebody new, learn what's going on in their life, learn what they're interested in. And that opportunity exists at the other school as well, but I think specifically given the number of students you'll have here, the other piece that I'd think about is oftentimes in education we come from a mindset of scarcity. We give up our power and talk about what can't be done and why, rather than dreaming from an abundance mindset and wondering what is possible. And so you all have the opportunity really to lay that groundwork here for future classes that come through here. So appreciate your question.
If I may ask a follow-up question, if that
No.
is okay. No.
I'm teasing. Go ahead. Oh, dang it. We'll take it.
Is there anything you've seen so far that you think could be improved on as time goes on at this micro school?
Word. That's a real good question, man. I haven't been here long enough to know, right? This is your all's space. You live it day in, day out. So I'd say that you're best equipped. We often hear the people that are closest to the challenge are those best equipped to solve it. And so I think you all are in the place to do that. I think the big piece would be I'd encourage you all to think about where power exists within Purdue Polytechnic. Maybe it's the board, maybe it's the curriculum decisions that are made, and insert your all selves into those spaces, because decisions shouldn't be made about what you all are doing without you all being present at the table.
I mean, I would just turn it back on you and say, do you feel this is what you want? If it is, great. If there's more things you want and you want to strive for and changes, think what would you visualize your perfect school being? And those are the changes you should try to make. And think of how can we reach those changes.
Hello, and the question I have for you guys is, what role does technology play in enhancing the learning experiences you offer?
That's an interesting question. First I'd reflect on how do we define technology, right? Like a wheel is technology that didn't exist at one point, and I'm super excited to be able to use that technology, right? But also I think about access, right? I'm 43 years old and I've never had a reliable internet connection in my life. Spent most of my adult life on the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. So the piece that I think about how technology plays a role in education is an important one, and I don't have a solid answer to it, but I would encourage us to think about what are the unintended consequences that we see by incorporating technology into our life and ensuring that there's still that human interaction that exists in space together. So that's a no comment political answer right there.
I think there's a huge amount of opportunities where we can use technology. I think kind of to Matt's thing is, using it well, though, is tough, right? A lot of times we use it and we use it in different ways. Is it really going to, what's best for us? Is it really going to help us the most? Maybe, maybe not, right? So I think there's, we need to look at what are our goals? How can we use the technology to actually help us reach those goals and make sure it's a help, not a burden? And I think that, there's tons of applications and ways you can do it, right? If you know there's a job that's going to be using certain applications, like explore those applications, figure out how they work, right? And then if you like them, if you want to go into that career or not.
So I think I have a twofold answer to this that kind of goes back to both of the things that were already said. My first answer is we see nowadays like there's a lot of pushback in education about artificial intelligence and people using like ChatGPT to like write essays or to do all of their other homework, and there's a lot of pushback against that. Like, no, you can't. They're like, how do we stop this from happening? And the problem that I have with that is like, right now, AI is the worst that it will ever be again. It's only going to get better from here. So instead of trying to like stop something that's going to keep coming forward, trying to find ways that we can integrate that and teach learners how to ethically use the technology that we have available that will be a key part of their lives going forward. So I'm really interested in learning more about that because I am very novice in the AI field. Then my second pushback against that is that currently I'm teaching science and math virtually. And so I'm struggling with using the technology for science, especially because science is one of those things that's far more engaging when it's hands-on and you're actually doing it and engaging in it. And so I'm trying to find a way to, in the virtual space, like go back away from technology and find ways that get learners out into their world to explore the science and the nature all around them.
I think one of the things I would add is we struggle at times because we do have one-to-one iPads in our building. We've now moved to a classroom model, and it's very easy for some of our staff to say, well, they don't need iPads. They just distract them. They just play games on them. But it's more of a, no, let's not take them away, but let's teach them to use them the right way. So we do a lot of that, teaching those skills. And like they said, in the real world, you're going to use technology, so let's teach you how to use it in a productive way.
And then I would say, just thinking about learner-centered education, it's really empowering learners and people to realize, this is our world. We're creating it together. And so technology is great. Use it 100 ways. Just discover 1,000 more ways to use it. But just decide what it is we're really after. Like to be happy, to create beautiful worlds together, to make it so that everyone has what they need, enough to eat, safe places to live, wonderful parks to play in. Like, let's use it to our advantage to do and solve problems that are complex, that would be hard to solve without it. So I just want to put you in the driver's seat and say, where do you want to go with it?
Can you describe the role of community partnerships you have in your educational model?
So I work with indigenous communities throughout the United States, and in those communities, they are often viewed where I live as they're framed as economically depressed, right? Like the county I live in is the poorest county in the United States. You can't change that, right? It's the reality of the economics that exists there. And so back to the part where people tend to see things from a deficit-based perspective, there's a lot that's going on in our community. And it's not just a survival, it's thriving in a lot of ways as well. And so I'd encourage you to think about places that, one, you have an interest in, but two, that partnership is going to benefit your community as well. Because if we're doing things right, the education that you're getting here, the opportunities that you're having to connect with one another exist in a space where you are helping the community learn too about the importance of young people and the role that they play, not just now, but 15, 20, 30 years from now, and being intentional about those partners that you work with, that they're in a place to continue to learn from you all, just as you're learning from them as well.
I don't have a great answer for this one, but I just know that with the community partners, we're trying to really build ours up at Norris right now and make sure that we have, for our staff over the summer, a couple weeks ago, we went and drove around just mapping out all the different places we could possibly make a connection with learners and where we could bring them or take them to learn something new, from everything from car repair shops to libraries to everything. So we're trying to even think, what ways can we help learners reach their goals, see the community, and that kind of stuff.
Two of our biggest community partners, we have 2 residential facilities that we work with. So they're very big partners of ours. And these are students who had been court ordered to stay in residential treatment, but they come to school every day. So we work hard. It's a lot of collaboration with their staff, but we work really hard to be able to provide them an education outside of the education they might have gotten if they went to school in their community. So it's very helpful because they come from all different places around the state, but it's those are our 2 biggest community partnerships.
And then I'll just add, we're studying and learning about ecosystems, and the idea is to connect communities, to build up partnerships, because growing up isn't easy. It isn't easy to be a mama or a papa. It's you need community, you need people around you to contribute and to imagine together great things. So community partnerships are really essential to that, and it helps a community come to life.
He wanted me to ask you guys some advice question I asked the last group of people, which was what advice you have for educators. I think I might switch that up a teensy bit. What advice do you have to the kids that are currently starting to learn about this whole new process that is being made?
And do you mean by process the idea of ecosystems or learner-centered education or something else?
The whole new education system that's currently being built.
I would offer up to trust yourself and trust each other, as Kelly mentioned earlier, but do it with love and friendship. You guys have a lot of the wisdom and the answers, and I love when you make up new vocabulary and help the adults see things that we couldn't see before. Go ahead and join together and help us see the real way forward that would make a difference for you.
I would say never forget your voice, and that a lot of this is, sorry, I stole his. Remember that you always have a voice and that you deserve to be heard.
Yeah, similar to that, don't settle. If you have a dream and ambition, something you want to do, don't accept no as an answer. Keep figuring out ways, brainstorming, pushing for what you want to do. If it's something that's going to help you reach your goals and make you successful, just don't settle.
I think something else is to know that you are the pioneers in this and that you are blazing the trail. So not only thinking about your goals and what's working for you, but thinking about the following groups of learners that are going to be coming through the system, and what culture and systems can you start putting in place now that will help them be successful as they're following in your footsteps.
I think the last thing that I'd add to that is, and having been in organizing for a long time, and see friends who have burned themselves out, who have become addicts, who, have had family systems that have not benefited from the work that they've done. But the community has benefited from it, right? But that personal one-on-one has been hard sometimes, is to don't be in a space where you're angry. Like, feel anger towards the injustices that you see going on. But rather than letting that anger eat you from the inside, think of it more as like agitation, right? Like, I want to feel something in my gut when I see that inequity that's going on, but I don't want to get so blinded by my anger that I can't act, right? So create a space where you're able to look at the issue at hand, stay agitated, talk with other folks about it, but then the most important part of that is then act on it. Do something. And so, y'all are in a great place to start this. We all appreciate y'all letting us be here in space with you, and thank you.
Just don't forget, though.
That would be one way to look at it. That definitely would. And I think the more opportunities that you have to take what you're learning, to put it in your own language, and then apply it like you just did in that space, is exactly what folks need to be able to do. So, yeah. Appreciate y'all.